This video presents the instructions of the experiment on risk and time. Welcome to this session that will last about 30 minutes and is organized as follows. This video lasts 10 minutes. Watch it carefully. It will be followed by comprehension questions. The main part of the experiment will last about 15 minutes. You will receive €5 for your participation, and you will have the possibility to receive an additional payment. At the end of the session, a question from the experiment will be randomly selected and played for real. This will give you the possibility to receive an additional payment. The additional gain ranges from €0 to €100, depending on your answer and on chance. General principles. In this experiment, there is no right nor wrong answers. We only want to observe your preferences. The experimenter will stay with you during the whole session. Do not hesitate to ask for help or clarifications at any time. Here is an example of question. You have to choose between two options, option A, on the top of the screen, and option B, on the bottom of the screen. Option A and option B are both lotteries that offer a probability of 50% to receive €100 in 6 months and 1 day from now, and a 50% probability to receive nothing. The difference between option A and option B is when a lottery will be played. With option A, a lottery would be played tomorrow. Therefore, if you chose this option, you would know tomorrow if you will receive €100 in 6 months and 1 day from now or not. With option B, a lottery would be played in 6 months from now. Therefore, if you choose this lottery, you would have to wait for 6 months before knowing if €100 will be received or not. Here is another example. In this example, option A gives €50 for sure in 6 months and 1 day from now. Option B gives a probability of 50% to get €100 in 6 months and 1 day from now, and a probability of 50% to get nothing. Option B would be solved tomorrow. Therefore, if you choose option B, you would know tomorrow if you would receive €100 or not. In this case, the main difference between the two options is that option A offers a gain for sure, whereas option B is risky. Here is a third example. Option A gives €50 for sure in 6 months and 1 day from now. Option B gives a probability of 50% to get €100 in 6 months and 1 day from now, and a probability of 50% to get nothing. In this question, option B would be solved in 6 months from now. Therefore, with option B, you would have to wait for 6 months in order to know if you would receive €100. In this case, the main difference between the two options is that option A offers a gain for sure, whereas option B is risky and would be solved in 6 months from now. All the payments involved in the questions would be received in 6 months and 1 day from now. Option A is always either certain or solved tomorrow. Option B is always risky and can be solved either tomorrow or in 6 months from now. For each question, you should check. What are the amounts offered by option A and by option B? When option B would be solved. Lists of questions. The experiment contains a lot of questions. Questions are grouped in lists. Within a list, option A varies, but option B remains the same. A list contains up to 20 questions. All the questions from the lists can be selected at the end of the experiment for real payment. Here is an example of a list of questions. In this list of questions, option B gives €80 with a probability of 25% and €20 with a probability of 75%. Option A gives a payment that varies across questions. In this first question, option A offers €80. Note that for this question, you may prefer option A because option B can give €80 or less, whereas option A cannot give less than €80. In this second question from the list, option A offers €75. In this third question, option A offers €70, and so on. In the last question of the list, option A offers 20 euros. Note that in this case you may prefer option B, because option B offers 20 euros or more, whereas option A cannot give more than 20 euros. Overall, for some question of this list you will prefer option A, and for other questions you will prefer option B. Here is another example of a list of questions. In this list, the probability of option A varies across questions, while option B remains the same. Note that when option A offers a probability of 100% to get 100 euros, you may prefer it to option B. When option A offers a probability of 0% to get 100 euros, you may prefer option B. Therefore, for some questions of this list, you will prefer option A, and for other questions, you will prefer option B. Avoiding redundant questions. Within a list, questions may be redundant. Therefore, a procedure is used in order to avoid redundant questions in the completion of the list. The procedure should not impact your preferences, it only aims at accelerating the completion of lists of questions. Example of redundant questions, consider the following question. Suppose that you prefer option A, when it gives 35 euros. In this case, we would know that you would also prefer option A, when it gives more than 35 euros. These questions are redundant and there is no need to ask you these questions. However, it is relevant to ask your preference when option A offers less than 35 euros. Consider the following question. Suppose that you prefer option A, when its probability to get 100 euros is 50%. In this case, we would know that you would also prefer option A, when its probability to get 100 euros is larger than 50%. These questions are redundant and there is no need to ask you these questions. However, it is relevant to ask your preference when option A's probability to get 100 euros is lower than 50%. Confirmation of a list of questions. When a list of questions has been completed, a slider appears allowing to scroll all the questions from the list. You must review your answers to all the questions from the list. At this stage, you can still change your answers. When you have scrolled all the questions, a button appears for confirming the answers to all the questions from the list. After confirmation, you are moved to the next list of questions and cannot change your answers. Here is an illustration of the completion and confirmation processes. Suppose the following choices. Now the list has been completed and a slider appears to review all the questions from the list. Remember that all the questions from the list can be selected for real payment. You can play the slider to review the questions. For each questions, the chosen option, that to be played if the question is selected for real payment at the end of the experiment, is highlighted in green. When all the questions have been reviewed, the confirmation button appears. Real incentives. One of the questions will be played for real. Before starting the experiment, you will randomly select two numbers. One will designate a list of questions. The other will designate a question within this list. These numbers will be revealed to you only at the end of the experiment. For the selected question, the option chosen during the experiment will be played and paid for real. You will not have the possibility to change your answer. Because you do not know which question will be played for real, it is in your interest to give sincere answers to all the questions. Resolution of risk and payment. Depending on the resolution time of the option, we will organize a Skype or FaceTime session, either tomorrow or in 6 months from now. During this Skype or FaceTime session, risk will be solved by drawing a ball from a bingo blower. You can schedule an appointment at the lab instead, if you prefer to proceed personally to the random draw. In the case the resolution leads to a gain, you will receive the payment by bank transfer or banknote, sent in 6 months from now and received 1 day after. In any case, you will leave the session today with a voucher that specifies the option that will be played for real and its time of resolution. The voucher will also indicate the name and full addresses of the researchers in charge of the experiment who guarantee that the option will really be played and paid.